And right about now, we have entered that segment of TechNote, and we are going to discuss something very interesting. The schools have reopened, but what creative ways can be applied to keep them engaged? And in studio, I have the Minister of State for Sports, Dennis Hamson Obua. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and thank you.
Welcome. And Lillian Vico, Regional Policy Advisor, Play Matters, IRC. Good morning, Lillian.
Good morning.
How's it going? How was the trip here? Any challenges with fuel?
Of course, challenges with fuel have been there for the whole week, for almost a month now.
Perfect. Minister, no challenges?
Of course, the jam in Kampala being the capital of Uganda, east, west, south, Kampala is jammed, especially in the morning. Everybody is dashing towards the center.
True, very true. Lillian, I'll come to you first. Tell us about this system of learning through play. What does that mean? Is it only playing, or are we doing some actual learning?
Thank you very much. So learning through play is actually a methodology of teaching.
Yes.
When we talk about learning through play, we are referring to a methodology that teachers can use to engage learners in a participatory manner in the learning process. So we are looking at teachers facilitating the process of learners developing holistic skills. When we talk about holistic skills, we are talking about the social skills, cognitive skills, creative skills. We are talking about social, emotional skills. For teachers to be able to be facilitators and allow learners to engage in the learning process. This methodology looks at the characteristics of play. If you remember when you were young, playing was something that was joyful.
Yes.
That was creative. It was iterative, repetitive. Because normally when you're playing, you play with somebody or you play in a group. So when you play in a group, it means that you're going to assign different roles to different people in the group. And everybody is going to have a chance to be a leader, for example. There is going to be someone who is the quality assurer or the note taker. So in this learning approach, every child is engaged in the process of learning, and they are directing their own learning process, allowing the teacher to be the facilitator, and then the learners applying, touching, feeling, doing the things that they need to do to be able to make learning meaningful.
Which age bracket does this system apply to?
This system can actually, the learning through play methodology can be applied to any age group. But for purposes of this project, we are implementing it for the age group of children between 3 years, pre-primary school to primary school, 3 years to 12 years of age.
Oh, perfect. Minister, how is the ministry supporting this methodology and approach for students?
First of all, before I respond to that question, you would permit me to inform fellow Ugandans that today is a very important day in the calendar of the United Nations. Uganda joins the rest of the world in celebrating the International Day of Education, and this is 14 days after our children reported back to school. So it is a big day because it was proclaimed by the UN in recognizing the role of education in bringing peace and development. So it is a good coincidence that we are here with the International Rescue Committee. Now, specifically on this project, first of all, the Ministry of Education and Sports has the open door policy in embracing programs, activities, and projects that are meant to beef up our current state of affairs. This is one of them that we have welcomed wholeheartedly. We have put in place a technical committee or team that is working together with our partners, which is a consortium of organizations. You know, the lead funder is Lego Foundation, and IRC is the lead implementer among other partners. So the technical team is supposed to conduct due diligence, especially in terms of content of the materials content of the project and what it intends to achieve in terms of quality assurance. So there is already work in progress, but as a ministry, at a strategic level, we are already partnering with them, and we feel that this particular project is going to boost the fact that we must recover from the 2 years that our children were at home. So we feel, together with the mainstream Ministry of Education and Sports, and also bringing on board the National Curriculum Development Center, the content that will be developed in terms of this particular project will go a long way in helping our children who have reported back to school, especially the last batch, that is primary and secondary education. So our major role is to ensure quality assurance, then later on we proceed, but there is already work in progress. It is one of the good projects which has been embraced by the ministry. A technical team, a technical committee is in place, already working in partnership. We are ensuring that there is quality in terms of the content that will later on go to our learners, including the teachers. So you can be rest assured that the Ministry of Education and Sports, on behalf of the bigger government, is protecting the rights and the interest of the citizens of Uganda and the government.
Lillian, are schools adopting this methodology, and what has been the impact?
We cannot say right now that the schools are adopting the methodology because the children have just reported to school.
Yes.
But what we can say is that during the early phases of the project, during the lockdown, we did an emergency response where we distributed 80,000 materials to 80,000 children in refugee camps, in settlements in northern Uganda and western Uganda. We facilitated the teachers to mobilize children in small groups so that they could continue learning. And from that process, we feel that what the teachers and the children have benefited is that there has been a continuation of some form of learning, which makes it easier for them to ease into this new opening of the school term. In terms of results, we will be looking at results at a much later stage, because our program is based on research and evidence, and we have an approach that we follow that looks at learning, building, and then testing. So right now we are in the process of we've developed content that has been tested, prototyped in the different communities with community members, with teachers, with school administrators.
Okay.
And what we are now planning to do is to go and pilot the use of these materials. When we pilot the use of these materials, we shall get a feeling of how the users perceive the material, whether it's user-friendly, whether it's helping them achieve their goals, their education objectives, and then we shall come back, refine the materials, and then we will work with the ministry to do the quality assurance. Once that is done, then we can put the materials in the hands of the users.
What kind of content is in that are you using to actually disseminate the project? You've talked about you developing certain materials for the student to be able to learn. Could you share?
Some of the materials are workbooks for teachers. Some of them are lesson planning materials. Some of them are activity cards. Most of the materials are teacher facing. So they are materials that we will train teachers to use to be able to deliver effective learning using the learning through play methodology.
Like what? I want to have a picture that if I'm in class, maybe my toddler, my 10-year-old people, what approach is that? Because again, we talked about this before the show, that so many people might mistake this as just going out and about to play. But I want to visualize it and see it.
So I'll give you an example of lesson planning tool for a teacher. A teacher, when they go into the classroom, at the beginning of the term, what the teacher does is develops a scheme of work. That scheme of work is built out of the curriculum to ensure that the teacher has broken down lessons to manageable, to fit the number of hours available during the term to deliver. But from the scheme of work, the teacher is supposed to pull out a lesson plan. Now, the lesson plan is supposed to outline how the teacher is going to deliver the lesson in the classroom.
Yeah.
So when you bring in learning through play, you're bringing in the component of how is the execution of the lesson going to happen. If I have a large classroom of 100 learners, I am going to organize my learners in groups. And in those groups, I'm going to assign them different games to learn different concepts. Let's take an example of a literacy lesson where you want learners to learn new words. You're going to take use a game. I could equate it to Scrabble, but it could be a game that has been developed by the teacher. In that game, you want learners in groups to to put together words. Maybe they are words about the environment, or you have a theme.
The weather.
Or the weather.
Activities at
but
school.
it has to be related to the topic that you're teaching. So in that group, you're going to find that there are going to be different characters are going to emerge. You're going to have a leader emerge. You're going to have a note taker emerge. You're going to have a negotiator emerge. But in the process, every learner is engaged in some kind of activity. Either they are thinking through the words that need to be put together.
Yeah.
There is one who is taking notes. There is one who is guiding everybody on what needs to be done. This process makes it easy for the teacher to observe what is happening. While the learners are engaged in this active process, they are developing creativity, they are developing communication skills, because they have to communicate and negotiate with each of the group members. They are developing negotiation skills. All these skills are happening, but they're also developing cognitive skills because they are learning through the process. And it's a friendly environment because they are peers. They are not fearing to fail because they know that they can fail and get it right the next time. So the teacher can step aside and actually observe that John is now confident. He's stepping up and taking up a leadership role. Jane is actively taking note of whatever is happening. And then you have maybe Mary is actually negotiating with others to focus on the. So the teacher is able to see how learners are progressing in the learning process. But most importantly, the learners are actively engaged in the learning process. And you know, we have a strategy in the education system where we talk about I do, we do, you do. So if you touch, feel, you use your senses to do things, the chances of acquiring those skills are high.
It's I do, you do, we do.
Yes.
Sounds brilliant. Honorable Minister, I'll come to you. What informed the need for such a methodology of teaching in class?
One of the reasons why the Ministry of Education and Sports, on behalf of government, embraced this project is that this project seeks to balance academics with other skills. You are aware that all of us here seated are parents. Our viewers majorly are parents because our children are at school. Our biggest focus in this millennium as parents is for our children to pass. And yet when they excel in academics, that is one aspect. What about other skills? Because as you move into the world, you must be an all-round person, not only someone excelling in class, you must also have other skills. So we embrace this project because it is going to impart other skills into our learners through the teachers. So that is primarily, and in a nutshell, why the Minister of Education and Sports had to take a deliberate action, had to accept to partner with Lego Foundation through IRC as the lead funder in that consortium, as the lead implementer in that consortium, such that we are able, within the 2 years that our children stayed at home, whether we like it or not, even what they had learned at school, some of them had completely forgotten. So when we take them back to schools after 2 years, then we are only pumping them with academics at the expense of other skills. You will find that in future, we have very, very bright and brilliant products, but missing other skills. So this project seeks to bridge that gap in terms of imparting other skills into our learners.
Before we take a break, Honorable Minister, I would like to ask, are there strategies being developed or thought about for the upper levels of education, let's say high school or even university?
For now, as highlighted by Madame Lillian, this is a pilot project that is targeting 9 district local governments, majorly in northern Uganda and western Uganda. I believe that funds permitting, it is work in progress. It is on a stage-by-stage basis. But the major idea is to build the foundation. And the foundation starts from these learners in primary and secondary.
Yeah.
So that is why when you look at in terms of the target, we are looking at building that foundation. As you progress from P1, P2, P3, P4 to P7, as you move into secondary, you are an all-round person. So the project seeks to build from the foundational level for now. But funds permitting in future, we can expand the horizon to even cover those already in higher institutions of learning. But for now, we want to build a strong foundation, especially of this category that stayed at home because of COVID-19 for the last 2 years. You're aware that this is the last cohort of learners that reported, especially primary and secondary. Because last year, those in universities and medical and health-related institutions reported in 2021. So we had the biggest chunk of our learners at home, that is primary and secondary. So it is at a foundational level. We want to build the foundation from down, and you progress, such that we build a better future and we build better products for the future that are all round in terms of all skills.
Brilliant. Well, if you have just joined us, we are discussing creative ways to keep students engaged who have just returned to school after a 2-year hiatus. Now, if you want to be part of the conversation, look out for our social media platforms, that is on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Look out for NTV Uganda or myself, Idris Matusegawa. We are taking a short break. We shall be back with more.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
One expert. Enjoy true feelings, a flood of emotions, a rush of adrenaline, the taste of victory. Are you ready?
1xBet operates under Advanced Gaming Limited and is licensed and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board. Betting is addictive and can be psychologically harmful, and it is eligible to persons above 25 years of age.
Get the digital assist with ABSA's digital channels and bank anytime, anywhere, on any device. That's Africanacity, that's ABSA.
On the next episode is brought to you by
Crystal Mineral Water is a sanctuary of refreshment.
On the next episode.
This week on Money and Markets.
The EU came up with EBA. What do we sell there? And what I've not heard from these presentations is the supply side. You are talking about exports, you are talking about access, you are talking about access. Our problem is not the markets. Our problem is the supply side.
Crystal mineral water is a sanctuary of refreshment. The quality of each crystal bottle is stringently verified.
Your Fridays shall never be the same again.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Itania, the life of the party.
And my name is Doug and Ice. Now listen, man. Every single Friday, nobody brings the party like we do.
That's why we are the NTV Mix Show, featuring the one and only DJ Brian, Fem DJ, DJ Dash, on a disco way.
From celebrating reggae music to celebrating Ugandan music, hip hop and R&B, we blow up issues like nobody does. Let's bounce.
Wind the week down on the DJ Mix Show this Friday at 10 p.m. where the party never stops.
Are you a parent that wants to keep your children educatively engaged? Let's play and learn.
Hear the aeroplane.
It's time for learning is fun.
Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round.
With innovative and interesting lessons.
Snake! It's 1 and 0.
Have the kids aged 3 to 6 watch Learning is Fun every Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. on NTV.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Good morning and welcome back to Morning at NTV. This is TechNot and we are discussing creative ways to keep students engaged who have returned to school after 2 years of absence. I have Lillian Vico from Regional Policy Advisor, Play Matters IRC. Lillian, I'll come to you as we round this up. What are your closing remarks on this issue?
So before I make my closing remarks, I just want to mention that the Play Matters project is implemented in a collaboration with Plan International,
yes,
War Child Holland, IPA, that stands for Innovation for Poverty Action, BIT, which is Behavioral Insights, in partnership with Lego Foundation, and of course in collaboration with the Ministry of Education.
Yes.
And the main purpose of the project is to ensure that we are improving learning outcomes for children through developing many other skills that are foundational skills for the development of improved learning outcomes. When we talk about these skills, we are talking about cognitive skills, we are talking about social skills, emotional skills, creative skills, and physical skills. So these foundational skills facilitate the process of acquiring the academic skills that we are all interested in.
Yes.
But the academic skills that we talk about fall under the cognitive and all these other skills. So rather than looking at these skills as extra skills or bonus skills, they are actually the core skills. In education skills development, we follow what is called the Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom is the gentleman who founded the characterization of skills that learners need to acquire. Taxonomy is just the naming of plants and animals. It's a scientific term. So when you categorize skills for learners, you have the lower level skills, but you also have the higher level skills. So when you use the holistic approach, you're tackling both the lower level skills and the higher level skills. The lower level skills focus on issues to do with remembering, recalling concepts, events, ideas. But when you get into the higher level skills, you're looking at application of those skills in terms of learners being able to analyze, evaluate, synthesize, apply in their day-to-day life such that it's meaningful. So learning through play as an approach enhances the ability of teachers to deliver effective lessons the ability of learners to engage in the learning process, acquire knowledge and skills that are relevant for their lives, and improve their learning outcomes.
Perfect. Honorable Minister, I'll come to you. What's the future of this project?
In a nutshell, this project has a bright future, because you're aware that even during the lockdown, when schools were closed, the ministry ensured that there is continuity of learning through online learning, through distribution of study materials, through TV and radio lessons. But you also remember that when you look at the 9 district local governments that this project is targeting, there is a gap, or there was a gap, in terms of continuity of learning. So when this project comes in to bridge that gap, especially in the 9 district local governments, and targeting especially those in refugee camps, we are aware that when we distributed materials, it did not probably reach everywhere, including the camps. So when such a project comes in to bridge that gap, they are helping the Ministry of Education and Sports and government to run a journey that will impart all-round knowledge and impart skills in our community, especially the vulnerable. One important aspect about this project is that it is targeting that vulnerable community in order to ensure inclusiveness in education, in order to ensure equality for all when it comes to matters of education.
Yes.
So we welcome it, and we want to appeal to parents, because we know 14 days down the road, there are parents who are still keeping children back at home. We want to appeal to these particular groups of parents and guardians. Please look for the nearest school that is affordable and let that child go back to school. So in a nutshell, we are together with this project. The steering committee at the Ministry of Education and Sports is doing all it takes to ensure that we handle, even in terms of monitoring progress in the 9 district local governments, together with the consortium of partners who are behind this project. So it is a welcome idea. They help us to walk the journey of educating and imparting skills into the citizens of Uganda.
Well, thank you so much for coming through, Lillian. Thank you so much. And right about now, we might have to cross over to Koboko with our reporter coordinator, Adidi Rashul, to give us an update on what's happening there concerning the reopening of the economy. Rashul, are you there? Rashul?
Yes, Sego, a very good morning to you in the studio. Sego, looking at the lockdown which was imposed in Uganda in March 2020 following the confirmation of COVID-19 in the country, you realize that the lockdown has majorly affected the entertainment industry. And when you look at the entertainment industry, which has mostly been affected, this time people have started actually jubilating, and there's different reactions all over the different towns across the country. Where I am currently in Koboko, many people are excited, especially those who are within the entertainment industry, looking at how they were affected during the 2 period of the lockdown due to COVID-19 in the country. Now, today I'm going to share with one of the groups that has been majorly being affected, that is the entertainment industry. And today I've been joined by Mr. OPU Koboko Boy, that is his entertainment name, and he's an entrepreneur in entertainment industry.